Welcome to the Finit webinar series. Today we've got an exciting one for you. John Blough is going to come on and talk about archive applications for historical data. This is Greg Barrett. I'm a managing partner at Finit, and I'll just do a quick introduction before we turn it over to John. Okay, so about Finit briefly, we are proud to be a different type of company. So since our inception in 2002, we've operated a little bit differently than most consulting companies. Our teams get bonus based on not on chargeable hours, but on client satisfaction. We literally survey our clients after projects, and they tell us how we did. So our goal is always to be aligning directly with our clients. That's one of the ways we do it. We were named a Fortune Best Place to Work in 2020, something we're very proud of. We like to think of we're having a very specialized expertise. We work in what we call the intersection of finance and technology. So the majority of our consultants have deep finance backgrounds, many of them CPAs, MBAs, former FP&A focused individuals, and then trained specifically in the software that we work in. Our goal is always to build long-term relationships with our clients. We like to use the term going beyond the build as part of how we do that. And you can see to the right, client success. The two biggest metrics that we're most proud of are the numbers 250 and 1,000 over there. So we have I think it's 83 OneStream clients now, but what we're most proud of is that we've done 250 projects for those 83 clients. And then our history as a company, we've done over 1,000 projects for our 350 clients. So that's really our goal, is to be building the long-term relationship. So occasionally it starts with something small, and we're working towards becoming that trusted partner, being asked back for multiple projects. And in some regard, OneStream's changed that quite a bit. Because of the power of the OneStream platform, it's much easier to layer on project after project. So we've had clients do as many as 10 projects now inside of OneStream. And some of them are where they've used the software so much they don't even really need us that much. We're more of like an SME. So for example, like the task manager or a couple of the smaller account rec rollouts we've done, we're able to kind of just get things going and turn it over to the client project team. So it's been great for us, and really shows the power of the platform. And then just briefly, our partnership with OneStream started all the way back in 2010. We're fortunate enough to be the very first partner, worked on the very first client, technically the first 3 companies to go live on OneStream. And in October of last year, we reached an exciting metric. We now have over 100 trained OneStream consultants. So really everyone in our company has been on a OneStream project, getting experience or gone through the training at this point. Okay, so last piece for me before I turn it over to John. We encourage questions. The more the better. Obviously on a webinar, it's hard. You can't really have everyone just screaming out their questions. It would be madness. So we encourage you to input questions here. You can see in the little go to meeting box, there's an area for questions. I will moderate. I'll take those questions, and then at the end, I'll come back and I'll ask John. We'll try and see if we can stump him a little bit with some of the questions. I anticipate we won't get to all of the questions that are asked. If we don't, we will follow up and get you an answer to your question. So please don't be shy. The more questions, the better. We will respond to all of those. So, okay, so I'm going to turn it over to John Blough. Before I do, our history with John actually goes back, John's got to be well over 10 years, I think. So John was actually a client of ours when he worked at Heinz, and then played a major role for the Kraft-Heinz merger. And then when he departed after that merger, we were excited to have John John joined the team. So he's taken all of those years of Hyperion experience and has been focused on OneStream since he joined Finit. So John, I will turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Greg. So hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today to discuss the archive applications. These are some of the things we're going to answer for you all today. What is an archive app? Why would I need one? What should the design look like? What level of data should be in the application? How do we reconcile it? Who should get access to it? And how do I report on the data after I have everything in there? So let's jump right in by explaining what we mean when we say archive application. So what we want to do is take a snapshot of historical data and business structure and preserve that from a very specific point in time. Data will not be reconsolidated or altered in any way. You have to look at this as like a frozen applications. There are a couple of important things to note with an archive app. There is no logic, translation, or eliminations happening inside of it. We are pulling intersections of data from one application and loading it to a OneStream application. Since the point of the application is to hold data as of a specific point in time, this application will never have its metadata updated, nor would ever be reconsolidated, especially since the logic doesn't exist in the application to do that. A frequent challenge that businesses face is that they want to preserve historical data when migrating to a new application. Normally, a production application will have several years of older data that won't be needed in a new OneStream application. While management doesn't want to lose this data, they don't need it on a daily basis either. If we were to keep it in production, that would limit the possibility of cleaning up old dimension members. If we were to leave the data sitting in our on-prem HFM application, IT would still need to maintain those servers, which may have unsupported operating systems and certainly have a cost associated with them. If they aren't already, server operating systems will become unsupported, and compatibility issues with Microsoft Office will certainly start to happen. Finit has been creating archive applications for years. It started with Hyperion Enterprise applications migrating to HFM. Then throughout the HFM years, it happened as major upgrades were made to the software. And of course, there were other consolidation systems that migrated to both HFM and OneStream, where historical data was needed. Today's focus, though, is going to be on an HFM to OneStream migration and the creation of a OneStream archive application. So first off, for both the account and the entity dimensions, an historical member must be created for every unique member that exists in the tree hierarchies, both parent and base. These are the members that hold the data which will load into the archive application. Now there are a few features within OneStream that help with the creation of an archive application. First, OneStream has the ability to accept an hfm.xml file. The file can be loaded directly into OneStream, and OneStream will build out the metadata exactly as it existed in the HFM application. This is a great feature within OneStream that saves a huge amount of time when building an application. Second is the out-of-the-box aggregation functionality of OneStream for the intercompany and UD dimensions, which are like the custom dimensions in HFM. Data loaded to the base members in these dimensions will automatically aggregate up to the parent levels, all the way to the top. Therefore, we don't need to build historical structures for these dimensions. We will be bringing over the full tree hierarchies from HFM to OneStream for all the dimensions. So all main and alternate structures that exist in HFM are able to be brought over to the new application. Having said that, they don't all have to be created in OneStream, only if they're needed. It's up to the client. I mentioned this on a previous slide, but here we can see it in the application. There will be an additional structure added to both the account and entity dimensions. We can see it here in my example company. We have a top member and the different regions of the world rolling up under it here on the left. So here we have total company, North America with its base legal entities, Europe and its one base legal entity, as well as Asia Pac, LATAM, and MEA. On the right is the new historical structure for the entity dimension. It is a sibling to the total company member and lists every unique member in the entity dimension, both parent and base. As you notice, all of these members are base members with a parent of historical entity, regardless if they were based on a parent, regardless if they were a base or a parent member in the tree hierarchy. So this line that comes down here is what follows over here, historical entity, and we can see all these members lined up as siblings. We have the base legal entities, as well as the parent members, such as Europe, LATAM, MEA, and even total company. So important point, that's an important point that they are all base members. The historical structure is where the data is loaded to and held in the OneStream application. You can see we have the base and parent members listed and sorted. While they all have to exist in the historical structure, they don't have to be sorted, but I find it much easier to review whenever it is sorted. So next I want to talk about the UD8 dimension. This is where we put a few new members that make the archives application solution work. Any unused UD dimension will work, but in this example, we used UD8. So there are two sets of members within this. We have the historical members and the lookup members. Just to quickly highlight, historical local members where local currency data resides, so something like euros, pesos, or pounds. Any US dollar data extracted from HFM will sit in the historical USD member. The lookup historical and lookup USD members is where there are some dynamic functions that allow the data to be pulled up into the main structure. Lookup historical will be used for local currency balances. Lookup USD will be used for the US dollar balances. Now in this example, we have all the local currency and USD balances covered. But what if there is translated data in the HFM application that also needs to be archived? We do have the ability to add additional currency members. Let's take an example where there is a management team in Australia that needs to see their region in Australian dollars. Their region consists of Australia, New Zealand, and Malaysia. As long as those members have been translated to Australian dollars in the source HFM application, that data can be extracted out, loaded to a historical AUD member in this section, and retrieved using a lookup AUD member in this section. This will give the Australian management team the ability to pool their region in Australian dollars and does not require the OneStream application to do the translation, since it is just holding the Australian dollar balances. We've talked about the design and how it is supposed to work, but here's a picture that really shows it. So on the bottom of the screen here, we have our long-term debt underscore historical, and then we have 2221 historical and Europe historical entities. This is where the data is held within the application. When a user comes along, if they pull their normal accounts and entities, so just long-term debt, 2221 and Europe, and pick the lookup historical or lookup USD UD8 members, the data will dynamically flow up into the main structure, allowing the user to pull the information the way they're used to seeing it. This gives them some comfort on how they're pulling the data. It's familiar to them, and they can look at their normal tree structures, pull the data in that way, and really see how it works. So the level of detail of the data that is held in the archive application is really up to the client and their management team. But there are a few things that need to be factored into the decision. The level of detail extracted will determine how long it takes to extract from HFM, how long it takes to load to OneStream, and the amount of server space used for the archive application. So my comment here is less is more. The less detail needed from the custom dimensions, the faster the process goes, and the less the server space will be taken up either in Azure or on your own server environment. One item I do want to point out is I strongly recommend not pulling dynamic accounts from HFM. In our experience, the time it takes to extract data and the size of the extracted file goes up exponentially when dynamic accounts are selected. As one example, we observed data extraction taking 16 times longer coming out of the HFM application, and there were only 16 dynamic accounts in the hierarchy. So it is something that really has to be considered when evaluating what's going to be pulled out. So Finit has a number of accelerators available to help us move projects along more quickly. One of which is a reconciliation tool that can compare data between two applications and document any differences. This tool can be a real time saver because while it is reconciling a month of data, an admin can be loading the next month of data into the application. When the tool is finished, the results of the reconciliation will be available for review and then can be kicked off for the next month of reconciliation. Because we aren't calculating, translating, or eliminating data within the OneStream application, the level of reconciliation doesn't have to be as deep as the production system. After we gain comfort that the first few months are reconciling correctly, we can select a sample set of entities and accounts to review, both base and parent members. A full reconciliation can also be run, but it will take more time to complete. Our example here is from one of our clients, Valmont Industries. We used a sample set of 26 entities to reconcile the data between HFM and OneStream. The summary shows us the status, which entities reconciled, failed, or had errors. If there was an issue, the color of these circles, both in this column and in this column, would correspond to the colors in the summary up above, and then any errors would be logged on a separate tab. So by checking this box, we can either log or not log any errors that are kicking out. Now that we have fully reconciled the data in the archive application, who should get access to it? As a prior system admin who had my own archive application to manage, I would recommend limiting access to only those users who truly need it, maybe even only the administrators. In my experience, the archive application is not accessed on a daily basis. In most cases, it is only corporate users who want access to the information, as opposed to business end users. My recommendation is to set up a read-only group in the application, add users as needed, and then remove them as soon as they no longer need the access. There is no need to add all of your production system users to the archive application. That would be entirely too much security maintenance for something that is usually only accessed by a small group of people. So when it comes to reporting data, we have two options. First is to create new QView reports for more standardized reporting. This will certainly take some time to complete, but can be done if required. The second is to use the OneStream Excel add-in for one-off requests. The good news is that in my experience, no one ever really asks for a full balance sheet or P&L statement from an archive application. Normally, the requests are for a very specific set of data for a specific business or a specific set of accounts across the company. Those kind of requests will be handled with a OneStream Excel add-in, either creating a quick view to pull the data or an XF get cell formula if we need cleaner formatting. Tying back to the security, most of the time, I would end up pulling the data myself and give it to the corporate accountant that requested it. I found that most corporate accountants don't want access to any more systems than they have to have. So they are fine just receiving the data in a spreadsheet and then performing their analysis. So let's summarize the application benefits we've learned about today. First, we can preserve historical data for use in a modern reporting solution. We can easily access the data with the same Excel reporting tool that is used for production. We can eliminate old and outdated servers and software. We can save your IT department from having to maintain additional servers and the monetary costs associated with those servers. And you can look like a rock star when upper management asks for the 2002 insurance costs in Malaysia, and you give it to them. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Greg, and we can review any questions that have been submitted.
Yeah, thanks, John. Really appreciate it. Yeah, and hopefully this all makes sense. I mean, the genesis of, we used to call it a flat app. Now we call it an archive app, as we've added a few features over the years. And I guess a quick shout out to Jason Carver and the team at Koch Industries. They kind of helped us in the last couple of years adding a few new features to it. So, but really the gist is that you can certainly bring all of your historical data into your main app. But this is a way of doing it much faster and not having to tie out nearly the amount of data by simplifying the structures. So that's really the genesis of why we started doing this over the years. So John, thank you for presenting that. We do have quite a few questions I'm sorting through here. Here's my, oldie but a goodie. Good. We still have Hyperion Enterprise data on a 2008 server, and it's still references, and we still reference it occasionally. Do you have a defined process for moving data from an old Hyperion Enterprise app? So John, actually, maybe I can sort of answer this, and then you can tell me what I'm leaving out. So yeah, when we first started working with OneStream, many of the original companies to go to OneStream were Hyperion Enterprise. They had not gone to HFM yet. So same exact, well, I don't want to say same exact, but very similar process. You could do the same thing. Create this archive application, port your metadata and data over. It's a little bit simpler because Hyperion Enterprise is more of a two-dimensional than a multi-dimensional like HFM. So yeah, very similar process. And John, you may have even, when you were talking about your experience when you had your own archive app, I imagine it was a Hyperion Enterprise to HFM.
Yes, it was. It was actually, we didn't even move it to HFM. It was unfortunately still an enterprise application that we kept on a computer under my desk. But
Nice.
But yeah, that we accessed it a few times a year when a request came through. But yeah, if we can, if we've got the process down from previous clients, we can certainly get an archive application built off for that enterprise data.
Cool. Okay. Well, I got quite a few more. Probably won't get through all of these. First one, approximately how long does it typically take to create the empty archive app? I'm sure your answer will, to some degree, be it depends. But yeah, John, go ahead and answer that one.
Well, it's got to be an it depends answer, but roughly it's going to take about 2 days to prepare the app for loading. So that's just the base skeleton of the application before any data goes into it. Depending on the complexity, it take 3 days. Probably won't take much less than 2 though.
Great. Okay. This one actually sort of follows that up. How long does it take to load data?
So that's another it depends question, and it kind of goes back to my other slide of depends on how much data you pull out. What I can do is an example is we took what were 270 megabyte DAT files from the data we extracted out of an application. We did zip those up because zipped files will move faster through OneStream to get loaded, and it accepts zip files. So they zip down to about 15 megabytes. The whole start to finish process from the import, the validation, and then loading into the cube took about 25 minutes for files that size in this particular application. And we looked at a couple different apps, and that's a rough estimate of how long it's going to take.
Great. Okay, here's one on a custom dimension detail. What if I want to pull all of the custom dimension detail into the application itself?
It will be a lot of data depending on how many members are in the custom dimensions, and it will extend the time it takes to extract the data and load it to OneStream. It can be done though. It's just a cost benefit of, do we need all that information in the application, and can we put forth enough time and enough time that staff has and the team to be able to load all that information and then tie it back. So it can certainly be loaded with all custom dimension information.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to answer that, because that's what I was thinking of. To some degree, it defeats the purpose, because obviously we're trying to bring this historical data into a OneStream application that we can quickly access, but not have it take as long to do all of that data tie out and build as with the, like, think if you're a company, you're probably going to bring at least one, likely 2 to 3 years of historical data. But years, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, do you really want to spend all the consulting dollars tying all that data out and building it out? So yeah, I think you got, that's kind of a discussion. Here's one on how difficult is it to create the transformation rules for the data movement?
Those are actually not too bad because most of it is going to be just a pass through. There'll be a couple things that kick out, such as the none with the brackets around it from HFM has to be a one-to-one mapping to just go straight to a none member without any brackets around it. So a couple small one-to-one mappings that have to go in, and there may be some unique items for your particular application, but 95 to 99% of the data is going to go through just as a pass-through.
Great. Okay, we've got 2 minutes left, so I'm going to try and do 2 more really quick. Should the application be held in prod or dev? I would presume you'd at least start building it in dev, but yeah, you tell me, John.
Yeah, dev is your best option because of the volume of data that's being loaded and the fact that these tend to happen, either while a new application is being built, it's just going live in production. You don't want to get 2 different processes going on the same servers at the same time. So definitely makes sense to keep it in the dev environment, load everything up there, and then depending upon what you want to do with it, you can move it to production during a downtime, or you can just leave it in the dev environment as long as that dev environment is going to be backed up. So that's key. You want to make sure your dev environment is always backed up if you're going to build this historic app.
Okay. Can HFM SmartView and financial FR Studio reports be migrated into OneStream? I think the quick answer to that is no, but there's probably a little bit more to it that you may want to talk about.
Yeah, there is. Unfortunately, there is no way to just load it in like the XML file for the metadata, and it does get in a couple different strategies. So, whoever was curious about this, we can reach out to you later, or if you have the same question, reach out to us, and we can talk through some different strategies that we've used at different clients.
So, John, one more that just came through the window. Can you translate? Because I think this will be quick. Can you translate the data with new FX rates?
No, you can't, because there is no logic built into this. This is really just a repository of data. We're pulling out those intersections of data from HFM and loading them top to bottom from, like in our example, base members all the way up to total company. All those intersections of data are being loaded into the OneStream app. So there are no FX rates in there. There's no logic to do translation. It is exactly how it is. It's just a frozen application. So unfortunately, no, we cannot retranslate the data.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, the principle of this archive app is that it's supposed to be static. You don't want this historical data changing. So yeah, if you really needed to do something like that, you probably want to take the data and metadata out and put it into an application that has the logic built in to do that. So you would not do that in your archive app. For the most part, we're building these so that nothing is changing. So. Okay, I think we actually got through all the questions. That was great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.